What About Vietnam? A podcast with Gary Newsom. The series where Gary talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Just before we jump into the show, I have some great news to share. Starting 1st of March, What About Vietnam is offering up 3 new travel service products, which I hope you'll take advantage of. Just a very quick mention here. The first one is trip planning and design. So that's creating the perfect itinerary and tour plan just for you as a private program. Secondly, we are offering travel companion services, which is a very unique service into Vietnam where you will have Kelly McCarthy as your travel companion to support you through your stay should you require that service. And lastly, I'm very excited about the Girls Getaway for 11 days in September. That's 11 days where we get to take you to a major city, an old town, and an island. So I'm expecting lots of fun, shopping, pampering, food, and some rich culture there. Firstly, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about the trip planning service and design, because I hear from you where a lot of people are struggling with so much information on the internet where it's just so hard to make a decision. There's tour companies out, there's Facebook pages, there's Facebook groups, and I just see you all kind of struggling to make decisions and relying on some people and feedback, and, you know, everyone's kind of got something different to say. And some of you have reached out to me independently, and I hope I've been of service there. But that's what trip planning and design is about. It's a service that I'm hoping to provide you with that's tailored to you, customized to what you and I decide is important for you and your travel companion or your family or your small group, whatever that may be. So check that out on our website. If you go to whataboutvietnam.com, click on the Travel Services tab, and you'll see all of the services listed there, including the trip planning and design. There is a small fee if you decide to proceed with us for the tour, that we will actually deliver the tour to you, then we actually deduct that original trip planning design fee from the overall tour price. So check it out, as I said, on the website. Send me a message. We've got this new message system on the website, so you can actually leave me a voice message if you wish, or just reach out to me directly through email, whataboutvietnam@gmail.com. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with the show. Xin chào and welcome to What About Vietnam. As a follow-up from the previous episode talking about luxury travel, we're in good stead as we've got Alvaro Moreno on the show today, and he's General Manager of the Fusion Original Saigon Centre. A little bit about Alvaro, originally from Barcelona. He decided to take off from his hotel management job back in 2011 and go exploring in the Southeast Asia region, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, China, and even across to Nepal and India. He believes this trip had a big impact on him, becoming a better leader and mentor to his staff, along with his external studies at Cornell University. He's worked on the pre-opening phase of 3 hotels and 1 rebrand in Vietnam, and he's quite well known for his creative process, which is very kind of hands-on, and he certainly excels in project management. I know from talking to others, he's very highly regarded in the industry. For some people, adapting to working in an unfamiliar culture can be difficult, but for Alvaro, he says his travel experiences contributed hugely to his own personal growth and that of his profession. The opportunity to speak with him came up during my last visit to Vietnam. I consider myself lucky to have the opportunity to indulge with him in some retrospection, really, as he speaks to us as both a previous traveller and now general manager of this very upmarket luxury hotel right in the heart of Saigon Central that operates with a tagline I think I've said before that I just truly love, the home of the daring. At the heart of our conversation are some insights on what travellers should consider when planning a trip to Vietnam, like duration and budget. However, he adds to that some inspiration as he describes Vietnam as a country where a traveller can challenge themselves in relative safety. He goes on to talk about Vietnam in terms of its network of connectivity, digitally so, to the scope and broad range of transport easily accessible to the tourist and normally at fairly reasonable prices, right through, of course, to hotel accommodation, offering good value for money stays. We drill down a bit further to really delve into what is making Vietnam so attractive as a tourist destination in the region. Tipping the scales in favour of Vietnam are things like its expansiveness in experiences, the competition in the marketplace, in particular with international brands making a bigger footprint and offering up stays that are almost becoming a destination in themselves, but developing the regions that they sit in as a kind of default, really. We touched on the culinary experiences available in Vietnam, and I took note of what Alvaro describes as the culture of Vietnam as being one of celebration. And it's true, Vietnamese love to celebrate and are always looking for reasons to do so. He also spoke of the skills of new chefs stepping out in Vietnam and taking really big risks in developing new menus and experiences. And this can be particularly seen in the big cities like Saigon, Hanoi, and Da Nang. It was great to hear this because it kind of supports what I felt for a long time, that we're really only on the cusp of what Vietnam is becoming. I'm sure you're going to love the show. He's a lovely guest, and I think we're going to learn lots more about Vietnam and what it holds for us in the future. Let's welcome Alvaro to the show. Welcome to the What About Vietnam podcast. It's really lovely to have you on the show.
Good afternoon, Kerry. Thanks for inviting me. Pleasure to be here with you.
It was really lovely to meet you in Saigon and have a chat with you over dinner. I certainly love your hotel, and I love the experience of your hotel, and I love your tagline, "The home of the daring." I think that's fabulous.
That's who we are. We wanted to be very daring on this new proposal of hotel that we just opened. So yeah, I'm glad that you like it.
You may see at the beginning of the show notes in the podcast channel that you're listening from some words that say text me a message. It's a great idea, don't get me wrong. I love hearing from you and that, whether that's your thoughts on the episodes, some questions, messages of appreciation. I just love the feedback. It's really great. However, I feel it remiss of me to not thank you for them, but to not be able to respond directly to you. So if you have sent me a question, and I've got lots, and you haven't heard from me, there's a really good reason why. I actually don't have the ability in the technology to respond to you. They kind of expect that you would or I would answer the questions in the form of a show. And there's just kind of too many, and I just think it's just too personal not to do it that way. So I wanted to alert you to the fact that if you do send me a message through that connection option, I'm not going to be able to respond to you directly. So if you do have a question and it is time sensitive, or you want to send me any kind of message, can I suggest the following 2 ways? 1, send me an email to whataboutvietnam@gmail.com. That is the email address that I have the most constant access to, and I will aim to get back to you ASAP. Secondly, if you go to the website for the podcast, which is whataboutvietnam.com, if you scroll right to the bottom, there is a chance for you to leave a voice message. Now, in that voice message, I can respond to you equally with a response in voice. So if you want a quick response, that's your next best way. But I just wanted to get this into the show, make you aware of this, as it really is becoming problematic. And I've just got too many, and I can't kind of go naming people and answering each question. That's just a little bit silly. So if you have sent me a text message before and you're waiting on a message back as a response, I'm so sorry, I cannot do that. But if you want to send the question again, I'd be more than happy to answer. Okay, so of course, my audience, people that are listening to this program, are thinking about coming to Vietnam. And of course, there's a lot of hotels in Vietnam. There's a lot of things to do in Vietnam. It's a big country. So, you were once a traveler, back in 2011 when you decided to come to explore Southeast Asia and you arrived in Vietnam. What would you now put your hat on for now versus that guy back in 2011? What would be some of the things that you would advise people? Like if you talk to your friends and they say, I don't know about coming to Vietnam, Alvaro, tell me what's so great about Vietnam. What are some of the things you say?
Well, it's a very good question, because I came to my first experience in the country was as a tourist. I was traveling for a month way before deciding that I was going to move to live here. And over the years, I've been already 8 years in the country, a little bit more than that, 8.5. I see now things from the perspective of a resident, right? Being here, part of the community already, rooted, having a lot of friends, career established. I see things with a different perspective, but I always come back to the origins of what brought me to travel and what are the things that I have enjoyed over the years. So I have decided to stay here, living in the country. For the new travelers, I think that was your question, right? Like, what would be my advice for the new travelers? I think it will depend on if the traveler is accustomed to travel in Asia or not. That will be my first question. Are they familiar with the cultural aspects of especially Southeast Asia? Are they familiar with overall the type of food that they are going to find? Do they know, or can they guess how interactions with people are going to be? So what would be important for the first traveler is to know first how many days they have, the duration of their trip. I think that's key to understand what can you do and how much you can maximize your trip to Vietnam. Another important one, and I think this is probably the most, is what's your budget? How much are you expecting to spend? And depending on the duration of your trip, is what are the options that will accommodate your pocket. Once you have defined that, I think the most important will be to choose destination within Vietnam. I think that's probably the most difficult part, because of course we all want to see everything as much as we can. Depending if we have a month or a week, we will then need to look at what are transportation and accommodation within the country, but it will be necessary to define what are the destinations to discover.
I take your point on all of those things. When I put together a trip planning podcast, which is series 1 in this format. One of the things that I stress in that is how much time you have, because there is a kind of a perception that people can traverse the whole country in 8 days and kind of say that they've seen Vietnam. And of course, you know, you and I both kind of have a bit of a giggle about that, because, you know, we understand that that's a blink. That's a quick wink of Vietnam. That is nowhere near saying that you've been able to see all of Vietnam. And I challenge people to even see whether they've really enjoyed that trip, because it's moving so fast that you don't get time to kind of breathe it in. And I do advocate that people possibly see Vietnam more than a once only trip, that they see it more to come back and maybe use the first trip as like what some people would call like a reconnaissance trip, to maybe, you know, check out and say, oh, I'd like to come back there and spend more time, or that kind of thing. But I think, you know, how many days you have and how many days you should have will depend on the kind of experiences that you want. So I agree with you totally. And then to your point on budget, I think budget is a new word that's coming up in Vietnam, because before it was, it was just everything in Vietnam was cheap. You know, you could do like absolutely everything and it was cheap. Where now I think there is some levels that you can still do cheap, but there is more for the luxury traveler. There's more for the wellness traveler. There's more. So there's other areas, and all of those have a different dollar value attached to them. And then choosing the destination. Now, most people come into Vietnam in 3 main ports, don't they? So it's Ho Chi Minh, Hanoi, or Da Nang.
That's correct.
They're kind of your main points. Now, because you're sitting in Ho Chi Minh City, how would you rate Ho Chi Minh versus Hanoi versus Da Nang for that first experience?
It's very attractive to say that you are moving from the north to the south, or the other way around, because the country is very linear. It's a long stretch of almost 2,000 kilometers. What happens there is that what the trend that I have seen over the years is that people arrive in Saigon, and then they could finish their journey in Hanoi, or the other way around. It could happen also from Da Nang to Saigon, or Saigon to Da Nang. I think it all depends on the time that you have, and then how you want to divide your travel experience, because there is obviously a big difference between what you are going to encounter in the north of the country, in central Vietnam, and then in the south. So I could say already that you can split your journey in 3 times. You may need 3 times to understand Vietnam and to enjoy the best of it. But of course, if you are ready to go from one to another over your holiday or over your trip, I think you are going to have very different experience.
You know, when you're talking to your friends or people are asking you about, you know, what is it like to have a holiday in Vietnam? Do you have like a short description that you have that you can just pull out of your back pocket and explain it? Because I find it very hard to explain because I have so many different kinds of experiences. Yes. So if you've got one that just kind of encapsulates it, that would be wonderful if you could just share that before we move on.
You know, Gary, I have had friends and family visit over and over the years. I kind of myself became a tour guide for all my...
I'm sure that's why I'm asking.
There is some top picks in the country that people cannot miss, but something very good that I say this as a traveler. I don't say this as a resident in the country. Vietnam is a place where you can challenge yourself. First, it's a very welcoming society, very, very welcoming. People is very warm and very approachable. that's something that makes the tourist feel extremely comfortable when they come. Another one is that it's a very safe country, very, very safe. One of the safest in the world. Yes, there is always small things you have to be mindful of what you do and how you do it. But this is a country that is going to allow you to explore without having the fear in the back of your mind, right? It's a country that is very well connected.
Well connected.
Yeah. From a digital standpoint, Wi-Fi networks, 4G works extremely well. Pretty much everywhere you are in the country, even if you are in the middle of the mountains, you are going to have connection.
Correct.
This is something that we kind of get used, but sometimes when I go back to Spain, that's my origin country, I'm surprised that I don't have the same connectivity there than here in some places. So then I see that Vietnam made an effort on expanding their networks. So it works really well. And another thing is, within that connectivity is mobility. How easy is to move inside the country, right? How easy is to take a taxi? How easy is to take a bus? How easy is to take a train? And how easy is to take a plane? And how affordable are they?
Yes, and like one of the things that I fell in love with in the very early days of my travel was that connectivity when the hotel industry was going through that phase where they were deciding whether or not they were going to charge people for Wi-Fi in their room. You might remember those years. And then, the customer, I think, drove the change in that to that, no, you have to offer that free to the customer. Otherwise, your country or your facility is just not going to be at the same level as everybody else. You're going to be treated. So you're right. And you can sit down at a restaurant or a cafe or whatever, and the first thing you're going to get is a menu with a Wi-Fi password, right, isn't it? Yeah. So connectivity, you're right. And then the thing I loved was that I could also sit there, and if I wanted to get a massage or if I wanted to get my hair done, I could literally go to the Facebook page of the place I saw around the corner, send them a message, and lo and behold, within minutes, they have messaged me back and say, yes, there is availability at the time I want. And do I want to get a pickup? So that they're going to come and pick me up on their scooter because they're only 3 kilometres or 5 kilometres away. And no mention of charging for that or anything like that. They'll bring a helmet. They'll pick me. And I went, oh, my God, I'm in heaven. This is just where in my country, and I think similarly in your original country, you've got to book weeks ahead. You've got to do it, either online or via a phone call. Nobody's going to pick you up. You've got to find yourself there. So it's just very, very small incremental connectivity that I think people get blown away. And because I travel quite a bit in Vietnam on my own, I find it not so challenging in the sense that I can just connect up with people and if I'm not sure about anything, I've found somebody who knows somebody who through some page or some social medium can get me to where I want to go. And Grab, for instance, the app, how fantastic is that? I have a favoritism towards Grab because I think it's their own cars, so they're going to look after them or their own bikes, they don't want anything to happen to them, so they'll be a little bit more careful than the taxi driver. But that's just my theory on that. But yeah, I really like that you said, it gives you the chance to travel and explore. So if you're going to explore Vietnam, do you have like some favorite areas that you think a traveler should look at or investigate or do some research on, that there is some wonderful areas to explore? I mean, I've got mine, but I talk about mine all the time. So it's your chance.
I can tell you that I haven't still discovered everything that I plan to. Every year I'm adding more places in Vietnam, but
too busy,
yeah,
see?
still there is so many things to discover that I would say that it never ends. In the south is Mekong Delta. I think the experience of cruising the Mekong in a boat is something that is a must, or especially if someone is going to come to Saigon, then for the part of exploring nature and also for the part of understanding the ethnic minorities around the Mekong Delta. That world is fascinating. It's another country inside the country, I will say.
Yes, another universe. Yes, absolutely.
Hoi An and Hue, both destinations have, in terms of architectural value, in terms of monumental value also, especially being Hue, the imperial city. It was the old capital of the
Citadel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that whole strip of Hoi An, Da Nang of Hue is a must. And then the north, my favorite one is hiking, Sapa. Hiking in Sapa is an experience.
When a traveller is coming to Vietnam and they want to experience a hotel, because you get so involved, I understand, or you like to get involved with the creativity side of it, what are some of the things your customers are telling you, or your feedback that you're getting about what they like to experience? Like, what are some of the trends and the things that they're looking for in hotel stays now?
Or I would say that for the leisure traveler, the one that comes on holidays, what is going to be important for them, I mean, for us, I think what is important is to understand the purpose of their trip and what do they need from the hotel, right? Why would they choose a hotel accommodation versus another one? Location and convenience is something that plays a very important role. This is because most of the tourists, they will come to explore. So what they want to make sure is that the hotel is a base for them to explore around the area.
To do that, yes.
So that's why location, I would say that is something very, very, very important for them. Another one is value for money. And here we come back to what is the budget that they have. The very good thing about Vietnam is that there is a range of accommodation that goes from budget hotel, probably you can have rooms for $20, $25, and then you can go to luxury within most of the big destinations of the country. Right? As you mentioned before, there is a growth on some niche markets, which is, for example, the wellness, which is something that many hotels are developing right now in Vietnam, especially the resorts. There is a lot of new hotel destination coming up. Not hotels that they place themselves in the destination, but hotels that become a destination on their own.
A destination in themselves, yes.
That's something also growing, so they help actually to grow the destination itself, right? We see that having a very good range of options, what happens with the traveler is that they feel comfortable with what they choose, us being the welcoming hotel, right? We know that we probably have a good match with the traveler that we have, because within the options that they have, they choose to stay with us for whatever reasons that could be.
Yeah, and the hotel facilities and the hotel growth as an industry has been something that I've had a fair bit to do with in the last, certainly since 2014. And one of the things that I've noticed about Vietnam is that back in 2014, if the hotel didn't have a pool, it didn't matter. If the hotel didn't have a gym, it didn't matter. If it didn't have a spa centre, it didn't really matter, because there was a perception of the new traveller that Vietnam was this developing country, so that, you don't expect those things. But then in a very short amount of time, the hotels had to put in a spa centre, had to put in a pool, had to, because the demand was increasing, the traveller was becoming more educated, and the country itself, as its own domestic traveller, was becoming more sophisticated. So, in working with hotels in the central area, I was helping design gyms in their what was before their meeting room, their sales meeting room. But, it was getting outfitted with mirrors and treadmills and things like that because they wanted to get up in that category ranking and they wanted to be able to meet that traveller. They had to change things with their swimming pools and things like that. So it has definitely seen a growth, would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that you touch a very good point that comes with the fact that the country is a growing economy. It's not only growing on the hospitality sector, but also in all
everything. Right? Yes.
What we see now is that there is an increase, or there has been an increase on domestic travel during COVID because borders were closed. It was an excellent opportunity for the nationals to discover their own country and realize that the hospitality options and the destinations that they have are as good as what they find around in the region, right? Something that comes with development is also competition for us in the hotel, right? The more options there is, the better you need to be. And that comes either for the owner of a small homestay in their town that he will be, or for homestay around him, and he knows that he needs to probably not be cheaper, but he probably needs to be better in terms of the experience that he offers to the guest. In the niche of luxury hotels, more international brands came to the country. There has been the standards has also been raised. But also one important factor here is that the industry has growth with education, if I may say that. There is better professionals now than 15 years ago. With the growth of the country comes the personal growth of all of them, right? So now there is a level of professionalism that is rising up, and that's where most of the travelers have a great surprise when they get in touch with their first experience in Vietnam. Most realize that level of hospitality standard, regardless of how much are they paying, is very high. One is because they are very hospitable.
Yes.
Vietnamese are very, very hospitable, but on the other side comes with the professionalism of the industry, and that's something very, very important also.
Just by their sheer nature, I think the Vietnamese can excel in hospitality because of that. I mean, we did lose a lot of people from the industry during COVID, but, this is where Vietnam was sort of protected. They had like over 60 million people moving around during, 2021 and 22. So, like they didn't really cop it as bad as some other countries because they've got enough of their own people to move around. So the foreign tourist is going to be the newbie again to bring back to Vietnam. And it was one of the reasons why I came back, or, was eager to get back as soon as I could, because I just needed to make sure, touch and feel it, that, everything was okay, because I was getting mixed messages from some people. And as you would appreciate, there were some areas that did get swallowed up, and then there were some areas that seemed to manage a lot better than others. I think the bigger cities managed a lot better just because they've got sheer volume and sheer size, etc., where the smaller areas are taking a little while to get back. When I'm talking to my customers about traveling to Vietnam, we talk a lot about the food. And one thing I'm seeing about Vietnam, where years ago all you could get in Vietnam was Vietnamese food. Like that's all there was, right? For quite a long time. There was only, but now, you're getting pizza and you're getting Thai, you've got a lot of Korean. It's become very multicultural, don't you think?
It is, especially on the big cities. I will say Saigon, which is the one that I know better than
Crazy.
everything. You have everything.
Yes. I went to 4Ps pizza place, and I just had the best meal in Hanoi. And oh my gosh, they won't believe me. I have to video this and tell them I'm sitting in Hanoi. Yeah. Do you have some favorite places in Saigon? Like, doesn't have to be Vietnamese, but if it is, even better.
Well, I have some top picks. I am a big fan of Vietnamese food. There is, of course, in some other international restaurants that, well, or even specifics, right? Like I have my favorite Spanish restaurant. I have my favorite Japanese restaurant. There is a couple of them that are my favorite Vietnamese ones. I will say that the best of Saigon, my top pick of Saigon is street food. How easy it is to have food at any time of the day and any street of the day. And I think that's my favorite part of living in Saigon on the culinary experience point.
It's true. It is very true. And I find the Vietnamese don't have Western clocks as far as when they should eat or when they shouldn't eat. They will eat when they're hungry. And, that's 4:00 in the afternoon or 7:00 in the morning, whatever. And, people don't think that you can have pho for breakfast, but in fact, it's one of the most common breakfast foods, which is pho. So if you don't get there early enough, it's all gone. Yep. So, yeah. I see also there's a growing craft beer scene that's also happening in Saigon.
Yes.
Have you seen that kind of explode as well?
There is a good amount of very, very talented entrepreneurs doing great things with craft beer. The consumption of beer in Vietnam is one of the top, I think, in the world.
It's the most consumed beverage, yes, other than water.
I wasn't sure, but beer culture is...
No, I've got statistics to prove that.
Good. Beer culture is something very rooted, especially because here we love to celebrate. And that's something that comes with all those celebrations that they don't need to be in special occasions. We are talking about day to day. Not only I have seen a very, very nice development on craft beer, there is also another side on the culinary industry that comes with Vietnamese chefs as future racing stars. So the same entrepreneurial spirit that I see on the craft beer, the same we see on the Vietnamese food. Those that are taking the tradition of the Vietnamese food, and they are elevating that. And that's something that it comes with the development that we mentioned before on the hospitality industry. Absolutely. It also happens for the food scene, especially in Saigon. Saigon is the city that has the biggest progress, but also I see that the biggest risks are taken in terms of culinary proposal, but also entertainment. 24-hour city, it never closes. There is always things available. But now we come to this point where we see that the hospitality industry is booming. Also, on the side of the food and beverage option. Very interesting. Craft beer and new chefs.
And what's your thoughts on the foreign tourism coming back to Vietnam? Where do you think it's going to come back from, and who and when?
It has been surprisingly fast. From, I think, if I recall, the borders opening was February, March. I mean, when I say borders opening,
March.
Enter to the country without hotel quarantine, which the latest stage was 1 week.
Which was May, yes.
It was a couple of months of readjustment, and then suddenly we saw that the tourists were back, and it felt almost like nothing happened, right? Now, if we look into the detail, we see that not everything is back to normal. We are not at that level when we were in 2019 or 2018. Korean tourists, now they are back, and slowly they are increasing again. That was one of the main traveler nationalities that we had prior to.
Correct. Yes.
I think Japan just announced that they are easy to also
open.
And then we expect that there is also going to be a recovery on that one. But then there is a good mix of different travelers that are back, and for example, here in our hotel, what we experience is that we have a little bit of everything right now in the international tourists. So that's something that it gives us a lot of hope that we are over this COVID period, and we can look forward with a very, very positive mindset.
Yes, and I was when I was at your hotel, I ran into a lot of other Aussies staying at the hotel, and they only had good things to say, which was good to know. Look, I won't take up any more of your time, Alvaro. It's been great to chat. Is there anything that you'd like to, I don't know, finish up with to share with people? Like, all my listeners are all over the world. They're keen to know as much as they can, so they kind of use the podcast as part of their research, or I hope they do anyway. But I think that's the main aim. So is there anything that you'd like to finish up with or say to people coming to Vietnam?
Well, Kerry, knowing you already and understanding already a little bit better of why you're a listener, I encourage everyone to come to Vietnam. I think it's a magic place. I don't say this because of the love that I have for the country and all the years that I have been here. I also say this from a traveler, as my travel insights. Over my life experience, is a place that has become a must. I would say for someone coming especially to this side of the world. I recommend everyone to come. I said before that is welcoming, is safe, is easy, and the exploring never stops. So,
I'm just going to cut you off there and just say that's fabulous. That's just all we need to say. I think that's a wrap. Thanks very much, Alvaro. When you hear the words "a girl's getaway to Vietnam," is there just a little part of you that says, that sounds really interesting? What's involved? Let me tell you, our What About Vietnam Travel Companion hosted tour. This is something I have had in the baking for at least 3 years. So let me assure you, it's going to be an absolutely wonderful experience for a group of girls. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Starts in Saigon. You're going to get to experience the vibe of that city, shopping-wise, cultural-wise, food-wise. You're going to then move on to Hoi An, and I've spoken a lot about Hoi An on this program. So you're going to get to experience an old world town and just the sheer beauty of that old town and meeting some new people, beautiful beach, once again, great food, but also that beautiful sense of old world charm. And then lastly, you'll get to experience the island of Phu Quoc, which is another experience which is totally different and unique. And I'm hoping with those 3 experiences, you're just going to have the holiday of a lifetime. So think about coming as yourself, just on your own and joining in with the group, or you might want to bring a couple of girls with you. It is a very small group. It's hosted by our Travel Companion Services Director, Kelly McCarthy. So let me assure you, she has got fun as the top priority for this trip. So we're really in sync. Please go to the website, whataboutvietnam.com, click on the Travel Services tab, and it'll take you to the Girls Getaway page. There's a full itinerary there, and you can reach out to Kelly directly to get more information. We'd love to have you on board. It is only a small group, So it's very private. We put a lot of work to get the itinerary just right, and we just think you're going to have a fabulous time. So get in touch. We just are pretty excited about this trip, so I'd love to have you on board.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information.
What about Vietnam?
Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?